Good morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever and wherever you're joining us from. I'm Noah Young, and welcome to the Maroon and Gold Family Connections. Today we're discussing wellness and how to help your student manage the stress of college. We have some fantastic guests joining us today. Dr. Aaron Krasnow from the ASU Health and Counseling Services.
Hi, Noah.
How you doing?
Good, I'm good. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. And we also have Julie Kipper, the Executive Director of the Sun Devil Fitness Complex.
Great. Welcome.
And we also have Pamela Schuler, a proud parent of 2 Sun Devils.
Thanks.
Aaron, we know that college students undergo a considerable amount of growth while they're here. Can you talk about how that might cause stress or anxiety in their life?
Absolutely. Well, college is a time of growth. Any transition in anybody's life can cause stress for people. Not all of that stress is bad. In fact, a certain amount of stress is necessary for that growth. We expect people to go through all sorts of changes when they come to college. They learn new things, they meet new people, they experience relationships that they might not have had before, and all of that is important and causes them to see the world in a different way and to change as a person. That stress can sometimes overwhelm people's capacity for coping, which then causes what we call distress, and that's when things can start to interfere with people's lives.
Absolutely. So how do those students learn to manage that stress?
Well, many of our students, in fact, all of them, at some point in their life have effectively managed stress and distress. And so the first thing we do is we help people tap into the things that have worked well for them in the past. Whether that was mindfulness strategy, spending time with friends, doing activities, working out, taking breaks, whatever it is that's worked, we start there and say, what has been successful? Often that'll be successful in college as well, and we just remind people that what worked before can still work here. Other times they need a new strategy, and so we offer an enormous number of opportunities for learning about stress and coping, ways to spend time doing things that enrich their bodies and their minds and their spirit. And in that space, people mostly find something new to help them. And that newness, it can be exciting, can be challenging, developing a new habit, a new strategy for stress management, but we're here to support that learning and also help them maintain those new habits.
Absolutely. And going into wellness, Julie, how else do you think using the Sun Devil Fitness Complex, how could they utilize that space or the Sun Devil, the entire thing?
Absolutely. I think what's really important too is that students find balance. In order for a student to manage their stress, they really have to have a good balance between their school life and their personal life. And so really focusing on their nutrition, the amount of sleep that they're getting, the amount of exercise that they're getting, it helps them kind of balance and clear their heads so that they're in a good place, so that they can really think properly and do the problem solving that's necessary when they're trying to de-stress.
Definitely. And Pam, how have your 2 students shown any signs of anxiety or stress, and how do they express that to you?
Well, I think that students are all very different in how they handle stress, and I think that they can either call home a lot or not call home a lot. And so when there's been some abnormal activity, that's kind of a sign that, hey, something's going on, and maybe we need to connect and find out.
Sure, definitely. And how would you say they typically diffuse their stress and go through lives? Are they watching Netflix? Do they go to the SDFC? Or maybe they just kind of like to read a book and curl up and have a quiet day?
Well, I think it depends on the level, for sure. You don't always know everything that your student is doing to diffuse their stress, but I think that definitely my younger son uses the recreation center a ton, playing basketball, and he loves that. And when they've spent many years playing organized sports, just to get out there and just throw the ball around is very, relaxing. I think that my younger son also has done a good job connecting with other people that with other interests that maybe are new to him, and having that good connection with other people, new people, is a good. I don't know if it's a stress reliever, but it's a good outlet.
Absolutely. I think it's important to build a community around you and make sure that you have not only the support from your family, but the friends around you. Maybe you're in clubs, whatever you happen to get into. It's definitely important to have those people. And so, Aaron, obviously the end of the school year is coming up and final exams are here, and that can be a time of a lot of stress for a lot of students. How can they manage their stress during these times?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, there are peak moments of stress and anxiety for students that we can sometimes pretty well predict. And midterms, exam times are some of those times. And then it also sometimes depends on the year of the student. And so first-year students and seniors have different academic life cycles in that regard, and so sometimes that affects how they respond at the time of the year. What we do know is that times of intense academic pressure usually intersect with how the person's doing in general. And so if this person's doing pretty well in general, then that academic stress, for the most part, tends not to push them into that distress space. And as Julie and Pam mentioned, if people are taking care of themselves the whole time, that helps protect them during those intense periods. But if people are struggling throughout the thing, whether with mild or moderate levels of stress or distress, anxiety or anything else, then those peaks can have a more of exacerbating effect on them. And that's when you see some of those big changes that Pam's talking about, where people might find themselves sleeping more than usual or sleeping less, eating more than usual or eating less, working out more than usual or less. All of those changes, just as Pam said, those are indications that something is kind of off, that it's something much more than normal, something that may be interfering in their life. And those are the signs that they need to either reset with the help of friends or trusted people in their lives. Family is, of course, fantastic support in that regard, or to get help from people in the community.
Yeah, I think it's super important to recognize the habits and when you break those habits. And if you break those habits every day, and that's obviously a sign for concern. And it's also very important to develop good habits, productive habits. And so, Julie, what kinds of activities and things and for health and wellness does the SCFC have to offer during this time?
Well, the Sun Devil Fitness Complex offers a myriad of programs that range anywhere from intramural sports to sport clubs to fitness classes. We have group wellness programs that encompass mindfulness, creative expression, as well as your standard fitness classes. But we also I like to help students discover what works for them as well. So it's not necessarily just always participating in our programs as they exist, but it is connecting again with some student organizations that might have some activities that they like to participate in that they can really build that community around so that it does help with their stress levels. But the Sun Devil Fitness Complex is always open for every student, and so we're always encouraging them to come in or participate in any of the programs that we're offering, whether they're in the buildings or outside of the building. So there's quite a bit to help the students get through it.
Yeah, absolutely. I know as a student here, I've definitely gotten a lot of use out of the Sun Devil Fitness Complex and those different activities that they have to offer. So, Aaron, now when a student knows that their stress and anxiety might be too much, is there 24-hour or 7 days a week resources available for them?
Absolutely. So we try and surround a student with the full service support, professional support, peer support throughout their entire experience. The way we do that from a peer level is that we make sure that they know that their peers are of support. And so we set a culture of wellness here at ASU. We expect people to live healthy lives, to develop those healthy patterns, and to help each other in that regard too. And so we do all sorts of trainings amongst ASU students about how to recognize a fellow student who might be struggling, how to offer some support and some advice, and also connect them to other resources or professional resources in the community. And then, of course, what we offer is, in addition to, as Julie said, wellness programming in the fitness center, we have full-service counseling centers and health centers on all of our campuses. Those are available for any student for any reason at any time. We offer walk-in services at both health and counseling for any student who needs that. And then we have a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week crisis line for students who, on an off hour, it can be 2 in the morning, need someone in that moment to talk to, whether they're in distress or crisis, staffed by professionals. We have on-call staff in our counseling center as well, just to be able to help any student who needs it in that moment and bridge them through that crisis on their way to getting back on track.
Yeah, and those are some truly amazing resources that we have offered here. And so, Pam, as an experienced college parent, having one student who is almost, at the end of their road and one that's kind of towards the beginning, and what can you see in those students that there might be a difference between a normal issue and a larger issue at hand?
I think that that also can be very different with students, the thing that I try to tell my students or my kids, or share with them, that there's a difference between normal stress and anxiety. Stress might be something that you have overbooked yourself. You can get through it all. Situations where you feel like I can't get through this is a red flag, more anxiety, like we need to maybe shift our approach and counseling center has, as a parent, as a freshman parent, you think if you haven't had counseling with your student, you think, oh, I won't need those services, you may, you should, for a lot of different reasons. Our family has used it, and not all stress and anxiety related. So we've been very thankful for the services, and like I said, you don't feel like you're going to need to use those when you first come in, but they're great. It's like having access to a tutor. It's a great resource.
Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely amazing. And I have one last question for all three of you. What advice would you give to a parent in order to help them support their student for their first year and beyond? And we'll start with Aaron, if you'd like to.
Okay. Parents know their kids the best. And so when they see this transition from before college to college and through the college experience, when they see that as their partners with their student in the ways that they've always been before, but in a new developmental level, what the student needed in high school or in middle school or younger is different than what they need in college, but they still need the parent. And we know that both by feedback that we get from parents who have successfully navigated this, but we actually have some recent research that was done by our clinical psychology department to reinforce that idea that certain ways that parents interact with their student that are appropriate for college, that don't maintain the relationship the same as in high school, but don't presume that the student is ready to be on their own. When they recognize that the student still needs them but needs space, needs the opportunity to ask questions, make some mistakes, get the support that they need, the student is most likely to be supported. And so that's the advice for parents. See the support that you've given as natural, shift it to something that feels more in sync with the student's experience in college.
The one thing I try to impress with my kids is problem solving trumps perfection. And if they find themselves in a situation, it's okay to be solving a problem, not quite getting to the end of it, but it's okay to go through that. Like, that's normal. That's what life is really about. And so that over perfection. The other piece of advice I would have would be that the ASU Counseling Center is, in most cases, better equipped to handle the issues that my students have. It's hard as a parent to say, I can't do that, but it's totally great, and you feel like you have support as a parent when you know that your student has reached out, whether it be academic or something other than that, and to use those services because in many cases they can do it much better.
And I'm going to actually speak from a parent side, because I did have a daughter who went through ASU and graduated. And I think when she was going through some of her stress, the thing that I would do is just acknowledge that she was in a stressful situation. And then I would ask her to just walk back, think about what it is, what are some of the stressors, whether it be the homework, the amount of homework that she might be having, or the test that might be coming up, or she was involved with the sorority, as it was the commitments to the sorority, and then just kind of walk it back and have her put it into like a plan, how to take it step by step. So I would encourage parents to do that and really just acknowledge that their students are going through something that's putting them under some undue stress or some extra stress, and just help them navigate some of that if they don't want to go in and talk to a counselor or something along those lines too. So,
Great. Well, I'd like to thank all three of you for joining us today. It's been a fantastic pleasure to have all of you. And for those of you at home, please feel free to come back to our page and see the rest of our videos that we have coming out here soon. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.